What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rear Naked Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie Kilstein.
And I am the other host, Drew Weatherhead. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you're going to have to sort of chime in, send us some DMs, see what you think. Because both Jamie and I got a haircut.
Do not send
recently.
me DMs about me and Drew's haircut. my DMs are wrecked enough. I do not need DMs about our haircuts.
Not necessarily like a comparison thing, although if you wanted to.
If you wanted to, now look, the easy answer, if we're going to do the comparison thing, is, well, Drew wins. But Drew wins because Drew's hair is always better. If you're taking like emotions and life story and sort of a narrative arc into play, it's like, who really picked themselves up more? This guy. True. The fact that Jamie left the house is fucking incredible, let alone that he toned down some of his dishevelment.
I got a real question for you, because having just come from the hairdressers, the barbers, as us men do.
That was a quick save. After getting back from the salon, the barber shop where we talk about black things, like basketball, which I like. I'm not a lady.
I know when you get in there, they kind of ask what you want. So I'm very curious what you would go in and what do you actually ask for?
I say help. Usually they offer me a hot meal of some sort. They ask if they can write it off on their taxes. Then I realize they think I'm homeless and they're doing a charity thing. And then that's a whole kerfuffle. Okay, so what I did this time is... So I went into, by the way, I tried going into a barbershop for the first time. Mm-hmm. I fucking love get me to a girly ass salon. Cause like them bitches can gossip, which is great. But like I went into the guys and the guy barbers are either like completely stoic or they're just like small talk is calling each other gay. And I'm like, well, this isn't fun. And then it's always just like, they just do something with like the buzz cutter and then we're done. Whereas like a salon, so anyway, so I went to a salon, Mexican lady, it was the owner, didn't really speak English. But she laughed at my jokes anyway, because she could see my like needy eyes, so she could tell when there was a punchline, because she's like, he needs
and
to
your
be
lonely
placated.
mouth.
yeah so she'd be like, okay, and then she'd put food in my mouth. And I just said, I like it long, just make me look like less of a mess. Like I want to keep it long.
We missed it. That's what she said really badly right there.
We missed so
guys.
many. You literally walked in and were just like, what do you want? Or like, what do you ask for?
Well, you know what's funny is I just went to a barber shop.
Okay.
And I had a Mexican senor who was also the owner of the place. And he did not talk to me. He said very few words, which was wonderful. Yep. He gave me a fantastic cut, kept asking how I liked it. I said, good. Very nice. Yep. I said that about 5 times. We paid. I tipped him like $20 and away we went. Perfect man experience. It smelled like BO and like what's English leather, like those old dad colognes.
Yeah. This smells like discipline.
Yes, and disappointment.
This smells like I should have been home a half an hour earlier. I mean, this girl was definitely quiet. I mean, I like it. But the thing is, what I've noticed is, as I've been attracting more women over quarantine, there really is something to the disheveled. We have to help him. But then no, it's not a ploy. It's who I am as a person.
Please help.
But then it was getting so out of control. I was like, I have to. You still got to keep a leash on it, because if it gets too out of control, then it's like, I'm trying to find the balance, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because if it gets too bad, suddenly like I'm wearing sweats and it's like, I'm starting to fall into this a little bit.
Oh, right? I see. You start
really have where it's like you want to be a disheveled artist, but you also want to look like you fucking like bathe and will be on time, which I was not for this podcast, nor the podcast I did before this. So I got this lady I saw today. We were making fun because I totally wore sweatpants, and she was like, "It's your failure pants." I'm like, "Yep." That's what this is.
You get me.
Yeah. So hey, today on the show, let's talk about it.
Let's do it. So we had a little bit last week where we were talking about a certain wonderful friend of ours, especially of Jamie's old training partner, who wore just the most amazing spats. You can go to the last episode if you want to get that whole rundown. We've got her on the podcast today.
Erin is my best friend. Erin, did you send the thing?
Not yet. I'm about to. What? How do you pronounce her last name? Is it Herle?
Okay, here's the
Herle?
thing. I'm gonna have to ask her this because we've been
It's just Erin.
We've been friends for so long that I only call her Erin, and there'll be times where I'll go, someone will know her, and I'll go, "Oh, she's one of my best friends." And then they're like, "What's your last name?" And I'm like, I don't know.
There's an H.
So I've done the same thing with guillotine, where sometimes I say Herle and sometimes I say Herle, and then I try to like gauge the person's eyes to be like,
you like end it like a question.
Do they think he's lying? You know what? Let's just not ask her.
Right.
Yeah. So really exciting. She started to submit the Stigma. We're going to talk about mental illness. She also just, I mean, we'll talk about it straight up, was like, I got stuff to vent about. I don't know what that means. I
it's
also
jiu-jitsu.
don't know.
It could mean many things.
It can mean many things. I also am trying to figure out if I have COVID, but I think it's allergies. Hey, because I was taking a nap, let's do the commercial early. I've been trying to cut down on coffee. If you guys, oh yeah, by the way, if you guys want to see an insane video about both my haircut and me trying to quit coffee, and Tom DeBlas, who thank God shared it and liked it, because if he didn't, he would murder me.
Yeah,
whoa, she's on already. We'll do the commercial after. What's up?
Maybe we'll do it during.
How's it going?
Oh, it's good.
Nice.
Thanks for coming on our show.
Okay, we got to clear this up right away, Erin. I can see it written right here, and we're having a real hell of a time figuring out if it's Herle or Herle, or how do you go by?
Hold on, I have to preface, because Erin's one of my best friends. Erin, we've been friends for so long that the first time someone asked me this, I'm like, I thought I knew, but I'm in too deep from this friendship, and I can't ask you what your last name is now.
I fucking hate you.
So I just did. I just told Drew is I'll pronounce it both ways and then try to like gauge their face to see if I like. There have literally been times where I've been like, yeah. Erin Herle, my best friend. Like, I'll say one of my best friends, and then someone will go, "You mean Herle?" And I'm like, "Well, now I sound like the guy who's lying about having had sex before." Where it's like, I know what it is. What do you think it is? That's how I treat your last name.
Isaac Doderlein, I always say this, like he got his black belt, and I was the one that like helped him come to Cobrinha's like years and years and years ago when I worked there, like 2012. And so this is, you know what, 5-6 years later or something, he gets his black belt and he's doing his black belt speech. Oh, no. And he says my fucking name wrong. And they're like, I'm going to let you decide what sounds better.
Oh, don't do this to me. Well, first of all, just to be clear, it's Erin, right? Correct? as long as I have that part right. Well, so I thought it was Herle for...
No,
all right,
okay,
well, clearly that's not. You don't let me finish. Herle.
Dude, I can't stand that people think it's a synonym for puke.
Yeah. Fair.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And, you know, like a lot of the times I'll say Herle, you know, and they'll be like, oh, like the brands. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, how do you, you know, I'm like spelling it for them. And I'm like, Herle. And they'll add a Y.
Yeah.
Add a Y. Like I didn't fucking say a Y.
Herle is.
Maybe you need to use one of those French ones with a little ding over the top.
I think it should be Herle.
Oh, there you go. That's pinky out.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Herle is someone who only watches the British Office and not the American one. Erin, I missed your face. How you doing?
I don't know, man. It depends on the fucking day and the hour.
Me too.
That's a real answer.
We want to talk about mental health stuff, obviously. We want to talk about, dude, I forget. We're so tight. And like we started together at Marcelo's. I forgot you got your black belt from Cobrinha that I'm like, oh, we need to talk about like at some point, because I know we're going to venture into crazy town. I do want to talk about training stuff, because the fact that like your two main dudes were like Marcelo and Cobrinha is like pretty. I
have three.
Who's the other one?
Started with Hamala Bahal.
Oh, damn. Okay.
She's a big influence too.
Yeah, those three are like, that's like as
that's a lot of world championships.
It is.
Yeah, so I feel like we should talk about that stuff. But real quick, because we were talking the other day, and you like came in heavy with an agenda where you were just like, I got stuff to vent about. And I'm like, is it even jujitsu stuff? Like, I didn't know if you just meant like in general, I'm going crazy in quarantine, or is there some bullshit jujitsu shit going on?
This bitch at Costco, I swear to God.
Yeah. What?
I had a Costco membership, man.
Dude, every time somebody is like, just go to Costco to get this, I was just like, do you think I'm a billionaire? I don't know how Costco works.
Like my friend Lori has one because she's got a real job.
Yeah.
I posted on my story, like, God, I wish I had some nearby friends. And, you know, this is my non-jiu-jitsu friend, like my only non-jiu-jitsu friend.
Yeah.
And she responded and was like, am I just chopped liver? Because she lives like nearby. And I'm like, yeah, but I look at your story and you're always doing stuff and you have a real job all day.
You're at Costco.
Laughing.
Yeah, I don't associate.
Like I go to Costco with her, but I'm like, you're always busy helping autistic kids.
Oh, yuck. Get the fuck out of here.
You should be podcasting at 2 p.m. like a normal person.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like, why can't you just be like available for my every need?
I just woke up from a nap. I'd be available. So here's an interesting question. Let's start with this. You have a non-jiu-jitsu friend, or let's say someone listening has a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yeah.
Is there part of you, because you know what jiu-jitsu has done for you and how it has helped your life, that you would like to convince your one not jiu-jitsu friend to do jiu-jitsu? Or is there a part of you that's like, I need to keep one foot in fucking like the
reality
real world
land
and like keep her away? Like that's what brings me into like non-crazy.
Okay, so she's so normal. And it's like we're both she's 31 now, I'll be 31 in like 10 days. So she's at the point where she wouldn't just drop everything and be like, I'm doing only jiu-jitsu. So even if I did bring her in. So I have this picture. It's actually me in a little short dress. And she was my best friend when I started jiu-jitsu. So naturally, I always used the moves on her. Yeah. And there's this, it's like that, we know that one where you kick their leg out. It's like a self-defense thing. And then you bring them into like almost like a one-handed Kimura.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And she's on her knees. And the whole time she was just like, what are you doing to me? And her dad like took this photo. He thought it was like the funniest thing.
If this was like a martial arts movie where like you two got separated and somehow had to find each other again, that would be the picture where like you'd be like the bad cop who like went into this like weird fucking underground fighting direction. Yeah. And she was the one who always played by the rules. And within an hour and a half, you're going to teach each other lessons.
Does, though. Like that's how I picture her. And it's good because I have that normalcy, but yet she's known me and I've been so weird with her that like I'm not normal. I'm only normal around people that I don't know. So like I'm starting school soon, which is weird because I graduated college 6 years ago, but I'm going to the EMT class. And
that's cool.
I'm going to be around normies. Well, I don't call it, I think in like firefighting, they call it civilians.
Okay.
I call them mortals, like people who don't train.
Yep, great.
Most applicable name for it.
Mortals is great because you're like, we can kill all of you.
Yeah, like I'm definitely like I went to this training. It's called the CAP. It's the Candidate Advancement Program, and they just kick your ass in a whole workout outside, and you have to wear. It's very like because it's paramilitary. Yeah. So you have to say, "Sir, yes, sir." And every time you go somewhere, you have to run in a line and you literally follow the cracks in the sidewalk and like go in like 90 degrees. Wow. It's really interesting. And then we'll learn a skill, just like jiu-jitsu, which is, we were working on the ladders and stuff. And I'm looking around, I'm like, these are some pretty badass people, pretty fit people, this and that, but I can still beat them up.
Yeah. Do you guys ever do the thing, Drew, have you ever done this? I don't think I've talked about this on the show, but I was literally just talking about this today. When I go to like a regular gym, because I don't know how to do regular gym stuff. I see you doing it, Erin.
I think you lift things up and you throw them at walls or something.
Yeah. I'm so bad at it. I will always, and at first I didn't realize I was doing it subconsciously. I'll always wear a fight shirt to the gym, and that's my ego. Yes. So when someone sees me with like the little pink 5-pound weight, and is like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, they'll look at my shirt and be like, oh, but he could probably fuck
It's just
me
like
up.
me fighting a baby.
Yeah.
Like if I need to use a baby as a weapon.
Yeah.
This is the movement I would do.
Which, by the way, man, underrated use for a baby. Just,
I mean, you tie a chain between a couple of them, you can really get them going.
Yeah, Drew does have a couple of them, so that makes me think you've done that.
My cat's the size of a baby, and like she will do this thing now where she'll just turn on me, and she'll literally just look at me and just go, shh. And I don't know why, because like I had her since she was a baby. I used to have her on my shoulder, on her back, you know, just chilling, and she just started doing this moody shit.
Are you wearing a fight shirt while she does it?
No.
Like, I could fucking
well,
end
actually,
this.
probably, because it's pretty much like, well, I don't know, you call it like a fight shirt, but like a Pan Am's 2010
yeah.
That's what.
That's like a hit. That's like a hipster fight shirt. That's like I got this at the live show.
Vintage.
Yes.
And so yeah, like I'll literally look at her and go, I want to throw you against a wall.
That's working out.
And I before, I remember when I had a miniature horse. That was my first horse, because
you threw a horse against a wall.
No, but
I lost the
get my horse
idea there.
like 9. I was like 60 pounds, and
okay.
he couldn't do what I wanted him to do. Or like I remember trying to get him to go in his little hut, and he reared up and bit my arm, and I was like, ah! And then like I know we shouldn't talk about like, you know, PETA. I don't want them to be in on this, and I go.
As you know, they follow me everywhere I go. So you are
definitely not afraid to kick a dog if I need to.
First of all, I didn't know that tiny horses had little huts. So that's an adorable image I have in my head right now.
So literally when I moved into this house, it was 1998. So I was 8 turning 9. And the people that lived here beforehand actually bred miniature horses. And so when we, you know, moved in and stuff, we were looking at the house and we're like, cool, why don't you just pick a horse and you can keep it? You know, it'll be your first horse. It'll come with the house. So I remember we got here and it wasn't the horse that we picked. But it was interesting because it was a little dude, little dwarf, and his name was Ricky, and it stood for Richter 6.8 because he was born the day of the Northridge earthquake.
Oh, wow.
So I actually learned how to ride him because my dad made me, and like I had like a bit that was like way too big for him, and I used to like ride him around. My neighbors would be like, "You're gonna break its back," and I was like, "Shut up! I'm only 60 pounds. Leave me alone."
It's a horse.
Chill. We're going to our hut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jamie, this is a difference between you and me. You hear a story about a miniature horse and you automatically cue in the cute little hut. I hear a story about a miniature horse being bred and I'm thinking, are miniature horses the midget porn of animals?
The midget porn. Well, that would require you to want to watch that horse fuck, I guess.
Well, obviously people are doing it and getting paid for it, right? Isn't that where they come from?
I'm not going to go there.
Sorry, PETA.
we all sorry everyone, not just PETA, you guys. PETA's like, man. Okay, let's start talking about crazy shit with all of us, and let's start it with maybe what we're all going through now, which is,
what is it?
Well, what it is I think a lot of people who didn't know they were nuts and medicating with jujitsu had jujitsu taken away from them this year and are realizing they're a little more nuts than they thought they were. And I mean, look, I have been shocked. And Erin, I mean, I'm sure, you know, you do so much more than I do with mental health, but like, I've been shocked that even some on my stories where I'm just having a bad day and I vent about it, the kind of DMs I'll get, especially from guys who were like, thank you for talking about like your mental health. And I was like, oh, I didn't think this was me being crazy. I just thought it was me talking, but all right, cool. What do you think it is that attracts, like, I don't know. Do you think it's what came first? Sorry, PETA, the chicken or the egg? You know what I mean? Like, is it jujitsu people are fucking becoming crazy because we're just like crazy and attracted to that? Does jujitsu make us crazy? Like, what's happening here?
I would definitely say that you know, people are gravitated towards jujitsu because it's weird. But it's still cool. So it's weird but cool. And so that's how I would describe me. That's how I would describe you, Drew. I don't know you well, but I'm going to guess that like that's pretty much describes you as well. Like people, like, you know, mortals would say, you know, you're weird, but like you're still cool because you can like kick my ass.
Yeah.
Right. It was an easy entry into the cool sphere without having to give up my nerddom.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like Twitch, you know, like Twitch.
There you go. That's a good example.
You know, nerds and whatnot. So, you know, an MMA for just the traditional martial artist, because everyone looks at like, you do Wing Chun, you do Kung Fu, like, what is that, you know? And then like someone like Uriah Hall comes in and he's like, yeah, Tiger Schulman's, I did like traditional martial arts and I'm a badass and now I'm about to fight Anderson Silva, you know?
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So jiu-jitsu is pretty much the same way, except we don't really get the recognition. So like with MMA, you know, you get professional, you get paid, you have a little more, like people know what UFC is, right? But we still have to explain what jiu-jitsu is. Luckily, there is MMA to be like, you know, that ground stuff that everybody hates?
Yeah.
Right.
I do the thing that everybody boos at.
Yeah, I do that.
You know that?
Sometimes, you know, we strangle people, but literally we do no damage.
Yeah.
We just have, like, catch and release.
Well, hey, but before you go into the mental health stuff, I fucking love that weird but cool. I'll tell you, I get depressed about a lot of stuff and anxiety. Something that breaks my heart when people come to me that I must have gotten over a long time ago, and I think both of you did too, is the idea that weird is a bad thing. That's still the thing where when people...
High school.
Yeah, it's high school. And I'll have people who listen to the podcast who I just get to know because I recognize their screen names or whatever. And every time they write me, it's something fucking funny and weird. And like, I know we would be friends, like if we trained together. And they'll always say, girls especially, you know, oh, I don't fit in. I hate going to parties. I'm always the weird one. And they say it like they're wrong. And I kind of want to be like, no. Everyone else is wrong. Like the idea that you would not want to stand out or that you would not want to be different is fucking heartbreaking.
Okay. I would say this. So with mental health, with being weird, you have to own it. Okay. And what I mean by that, and this is kind of like what I always say is there's a Hey Arnold episode, and he is going to get beat up by the bully. What's his name? What's the bully's name? I forget.
It sounded just like him.
So Helga is like, 21 hours and, 2 minutes and 5 seconds till you die. And the whole episode is just her like screaming at him through his window over, throughout the day or the night that he's going to die. And so she, gets him, really, really, really anxious. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So he comes up with this plan, and then we don't see the plan until he goes down there and he brings a boombox, and they're in the street and everybody's crowded around, and he turns on the boombox and it's this like song, and he's bouncing around and he's like, don't hit me, I'll hit me. And the whole thing is like, they just go, oh, you're weird. And then they just leave him alone.
Right.
And so I think that when you own it, one, the right people will gravitate towards you, and then the people that wouldn't, just kind of leave you alone because they're like scared of you. Or they're just like, you're not my cup of tea. I'm gonna find the door.
So do you think it's like more harmful when people try to hide their weirdness and just
because it never works. It never, ever works. And in fact, what it does is it makes you like a wallflower. And, unless you are typically just shy and an introvert and you like to just observe, that's fine. You've owned it. You're the wallflower and people are going to know you as that. But if you're weird and you've got this like no filter and you're just dying to say the weird things that are in your brain, but you shut yourself off because people are going to judge you, or you're going to get kicked out of the party, or, no one wants to invite you to the orgy. I don't know. Right. But it's not fun that way. You have to own it. And what I get all the time is, oh my gosh, you say such weird stuff, but like, it doesn't weird them out.
Right.
Being weird, but being weirded out is the negative.
Yeah.
And so like, I'll say some stuff like just full on. Like I remember like I was in CrossFit, right? And I had really cool coaches when I was in New York City. And he'd be like, wow, that was a really great lift. I'm like, yeah, I did it while I was bleeding too. And he'd be like, good job. But, like, think about it, like I'm freaking on my period and I'm still lifting these heavy weights. Like,
right.
Should be proud.
I also want the pull quote for the episode. I just wrote it down to be: own your weirdness, get invited to the orgy. That's the Erin
it's all
Herle
about
advice.
getting to the right orgy.
The right orgy. Yeah, don't go to the fucking corporate
Let me just my time.
Yeah, the mortal orgy where they're all just sadly giving each other hand jobs and not making eye contact.
Get stuck with Helen from HR. Oh my God.
Oh, good. You know you're just gonna get reported for anything you say. Yeah, dude. I like that a lot about the wallflower thing, and also it's about when you do find your tribe. So say jujitsu, kind of using that as like your opportunity to own your weirdness, so that because so much of it, I mean, unfortunately, weird people we've been being told to stop being weird our entire life. Why would you do jujitsu, especially if you're a girl, right? Why would you play music? Why would you do this? Why aren't you like your brothers? Like all of this shit. And so, but when you start to get confident, like let's say you get good at something like jujitsu or good at music or whatever, when you start to get confident, suddenly, I remember there were times in LA where I would go to parties and I'd be with like in a circle of like famous people, or no, famous people are usually weird too, but like let's say like agents or something, and I'd make some joke about having like mom issues or dad issues or some suicide joke or whatever, and it would just get so quiet, and my instinct was to go, oh, see, I did it again, I don't belong here. But when you get confident, you get to go, oh fuck, these just are my fucking people, you know? And that's what's so huge, is being confident enough to like be able to be like, I don't need a girlfriend if my girlfriend's not going to get me. I don't need this group of friends, or I don't need to go to parties if I'm going to not be able to be myself. I mean,
it's hard.
Which is really hard. And by the way, lots of people are going through it with their jiu-jitsu gyms. Drew, I'm still getting emails from people nervous to leave their gym because some racist bullshit came out, or some sexist shit with the Claudia thing, or, you know, whatever. And people are just afraid. They just feel like they're stuck there, and you're not stuck.
Or alone. They're afraid to be alone. Like, for example, when I left Homelos, okay, I loved Homolo. I still love Homolo to this day. I think it's funny because he is probably one of the most liked people. He's really cool. Mm-hmm. He still says what's on his mind. But if you're going to talk to any other high level guy, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I love Homolo. Homolo is really cool. And so him, you know, his teaching, his classes, like I was part of the core group, and we got kicked out of his first gym. And then we were training in this like 3-day a week, like type of, you know, whatever. It was like a small gym. And it was before he opened up Gracie Baja Northridge. And, you know, I was having issues with Edwin, who was my bully at the time. I didn't have any females to train with. It was very hard to feel like I had found a place for me, especially in the transition. So Cobrinha came, and, you know, I had someone that I was dating who, you know, had trained with him in Atlanta. I was like, you need to go here. And it was like a 40-minute drive more, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to go do it. So yeah, that was really good for me. But at the same time, I remember even thinking about telling Homolo that I was leaving, and I would cry. I would literally just cry, because I'm like, okay, one, I have this like, you know, family, these people that I really have gotten to know, especially being my first gym. And then also, you know, going to a new place, and that transition was really difficult. And I remember one day it was just like, I just made that decision, and I had my hood on. I felt like I was going to cry, and he could look at my face and know that something was wrong. Yeah. And he's like, what's wrong? And so I went to go talk to him, and that's when I told him, you know, and I remember crying, and I was like, well, when you still have kids, can I help babysit? Like, this was like, you know, I'd built such a relationship with them and that family.
Yeah, it sounds like a breakup almost, hey?
Yeah, it is. It really is. Especially with that. Like, a lot of people aren't going to have that same situation, but I did. And it was really hard. I think it was hard because it didn't make sense to a lot of people, because Homolo was so fucking good. And I was getting good being there. And it was just more of a personal thing than anything. Mm. And yeah, it was hard for people to understand. But I mean, at the same time, I wasn't going to Joe Schmo's. I was going to Cobrinha. So
right.
Yeah. But having that transition, and honestly, Homolo didn't talk to me for a while. He shut me out, and that's expected. You know, he made it seem like everything was going to be fine, but I'm sure afterwards he was like, you know what, fuck this.
Dude, it's wild. I left some gyms because I moved, and suddenly I'm like, did everyone stop following me on Instagram?
Yeah, that hurts.
Is that a weird, like, because I was like my gym in Tucson, I like everyone used to like comment on my videos and stuff like that, and I just thought about this today, and I'm on fine terms with them. Like,
where are you right now?
I'm in Tucson. I'm right now. I found this like boxing vagrant who just left his job and is training some of these MMA guys, and we're training in a barn 40 minutes away from me. It's like it's like a 90s martial arts movie. Yesterday we met to do hill runs behind a gas station, and I'm like, this is everything I want. It's like I'm training to avenge my family. It's like, it's fucking with like the weird, remember in the 90s there was this phase where like if you were training to like avenge someone, you'd like meet the like Native American out in the desert, and he would treat
underground.
Teach you like his secret ways. That's essentially what I'm doing right now. So I'm like, I've accepted I'm never going to get a black belt, but I'm just going to learn.
Eventually.
Erin, this is Drew. I haven't told you this. So
I already gave him a black belt. Sorry, you're late.
Drew threw me a black belt for a sketch. And Erin, you've known me for long enough. You should have seen how longingly Drew was like, do you have my black belt? And I was like, just like petting it, and I was just like but like I don't want to get like, honestly, if I trained anywhere for more than a month here in fucking Tucson, I'm like, I would get, but you know what it's like to me it's a big fucking deal that I'm like, I still consider myself a Marcelo guy, and I've been to like 5 other fucking gyms. Like I've never, when you lose that first family, I mean, like, I totally know what you're saying with Homolo, where like, even with Marcelo, like I moved to LA, but there's part of me, if I saw Marcelo, I would feel like, I haven't talked to him since then, because like I don't have his fucking like phone number, and like I feel like it would be like seeing an ex, and I would just start crying.
Yeah.
And I remember Marcelo's last words to me were, he was like, you'll be back. And I was like, oh, but I think I have to go to LA. And he's like, James, you'll be back. And I was like, all right. And I just gave him a hug. And like, it shut down it was emotional jujitsu to stop me from crying, I assume. And I don't know. I don't fucking know if I'll be back. But like the idea of getting my black belt.
One's to be back right now.
Right. Yeah. But the idea of getting my black belt. Yeah. Someone told me he's like not even in New York right now. And I was like, Marcelo, he's even the GOAT with COVID. He's like, bye.
Yeah.
But like the idea of, as much as my ego and as much as, I want a black belt, I feel like if I just got it from some random, even if they're good, even if they're cool, just someone who doesn't mean something to me, it won't mean anything to me.
Fine, then just give it back, Jamie. Jesus.
But like, honestly, I would rather get it from like either of you two than I would like.
All right, I'm gonna let you in on something.
World champion, whoever.
I'm gonna let you in on something.
Yeah.
I have not talked to Cobrinha since November. I think it was November 2018.
Okay. And
maybe I saw him at a tournament and said hi.
So wait, so you got your black belt
in 2017, November 4th, 2017. Okay.
And you got it from Cobrinha.
Yeah, we weren't on like great terms, and I think my fault.
Wait, well, that by the way means that's a compliment to your jiu-jitsu. When someone begrudgingly gives you your black belt, that's the best.
No, because I mix personal, okay? Because with me, I'm like, I'm in this and I'm going to do everything. Like when I was a white belt, I was like, I'm jiu-jitsu.
Me too.
I was a blue belt. I went full time, okay? I lived at the gym. I mean, I would have if I, could, but I would drive to the gym. I'd be there from like 9 a.m., 8:30 in the morning till like 10:30 at night. And
were you in like your 20s then?
Exactly.
Early 20s? Okay.
Exactly. So, and I was going to school and stuff, but yeah. So, and at some points I had jobs, like Craigslist jobs and whatever, but basically I put everything into it. And during my black belt speech, even I basically said like, hey, I don't have a dad anymore. And I look to you, Cobrinha, like to make proud,
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I've read a lot of stuff since then, and people talk about how that's really the downfall. But it's similar to athletics in school. You look to your coach. Sometimes.
Wait, what do you mean the downfall? Like in what sense?
Downfall is like mixing, being like, you're like my dad, instead of just, you teach me jujitsu.
Right.
To me, it was like, this is my idol. This is someone that's going to give you direction. And part of the problem with that is that you lean on that person, especially if they've done well in competition, because if that's the route you want to take, that person is going to hopefully show you everything. And no one really did, to be honest. No one showed me how to do seminars. No one showed me how to reach out and get on the EBI and all those things. I just sort of did it. And I think being with Gianni at some point, I had to kind of manage him, and then it went from there, and I was reaching out for seminars, and there's no way to go about it. Like there's no agent in jiu-jitsu. There's no managers in jiu-jitsu. You are your own, right? So I'm just a very like, oh, I want to do that. I'm going to figure out how. So I was going to travel to these tournaments. I was like, wait, so anyone can sign up for Europeans? And in 2012, I went just because I wanted to go, and I did horribly. But that was like my first time competing internationally. I just bought the ticket. I was like, okay, cool. I can do that myself. I don't need permission from anybody. I can just pay the registration.
Yep.
Okay, I just get the hotel, whatever. And then I just show up. I'm in the bracket and I can do this. There was no governing body that said, you need to do this, and this first. Yes, you need to pay money. You need
4 years of Naga before you can go to Europeans.
Right, exactly.
Do you do jiu-jitsu? Good. Do you have money? Better.
Exactly. So that's kind of like what I was doing. And so then, the seminars and everything else. And it was weird because at that point, especially as a brown belt, when I moved back to LA, I was doing my own seminars. I had a seminar tour in Europe, and it overlapped with Cobrinha's. And I went to Europeans, and then I went to London, and then I went over to Wales directly to do a seminar for the Stigma. I went back to London, had a couple of days before I was going to Dublin. So I talked to Jackson Souza, and he was like, hey, Cobrinha's doing a seminar at my gym right now. You should just come over. So I got an Uber, went there, and then like I just sat there until it was over. And then he said hi to me. And then we all went to dinner. And like he sat at one side of the table and I sat at the other. And I think that no one would have known that I was his student.
Weird.
And it's just weird because I've always felt like me doing my own thing, because it's very much lineage. Lineage matters. And of course, I was putting Cobrinha, Marcelo, all that on my seminars to get seminars. But it just felt weird.
There's definitely like, I've had issues similar to that. And there's definitely something, for as free as jiu-jitsu is, right? And it attracts very creative, like, me and you, Erin, like we're kind of Ronins, right? Like we kind of are just like these like hitmen. Where I remember, but we like we kind of like killing people. But like where it's cool, but it's also really kind of heartbreaking sometimes to be an outcast in a society of group that's already outcasts.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean? Where I remember feeling that. I feel that way now, like down here, where it's like, all right, I'm already weird enough with jiu-jitsu, but now I don't even really have a jiu-jitsu family. Like now I can't really even reach out to Marcelo. Like I don't know where the fuck he is. I'm like, I don't think the people at Henzo's LA ever fucking liked me. Like I just felt like the weirdo there, and it's a really heartbreaking. I remember I'm gonna make a comparison, a very weird comparison. So not a lot of people know this, but there was a phase where under George Bush, I was starting to get some notoriety with comedy, but it was very political post 9/11 in New York. So I wasn't getting a lot of gigs. So at the time, Most Def hosted something called Def Poetry Jam on HBO. And I started watching all these like kind of poetry slams, which usually when you think about it, it's like insufferable white college kids, like half rapping about their vagina. Yeah. And like, and it's horrible. And there is a lot of that, but I started going to this place called the New Eurekan Poets Cafe, which everyone from Talib Kweli to Mos Def to fucking Allen Ginsberg has performed at. And I started winning everything because I'm funny, right? So I had this old joke that was a pro-gay rights joke, but this was like, 2001, 2002. So, yeah. It was pre-pro-gay, but it was also like, none of the gay people who watched me thought it was problematic, but to one of the poets who was like, early, what people think Lena Dunham is, a problematic line, right? And so she wrote a response poem to me without telling me, without knowing me, and did a poem on stage in front of like hundreds of people. I'm like standing in the back, having no idea this is going to happen. I've seen her on TV. She was on Def Poetry Jam, called a response to the comedian, like purposely not calling me a poet, who thinks that blah, blah, blah. And I start, I'm holding on to my ex-wife's hand and I'm crying. And I remember leaving and going, if I'm even an outcast in the slam poetry community, slam poetry a notch above mime, you know what I mean? That I'm like, I am fucked forever. And it was this feeling of being an outsider in a land of outsiders. And at the same time, Erin, it's like, and I think about this when I look at you from a distance, not even as a friend, just as someone I look up to, where it's like, those are the people that get remembered. You know what I mean? I mean, like, even you look at Marcelo, like when Marcelo started, like Tachi was the black belt. He was just some fucking purple belt scumbag. You know what I mean? And like, then he left Brazil and went to Florida. And like the people who are the most successful in comedy. I mean, Bill Hicks didn't get famous till he fucking died. Mitch Hedberg was getting booed out of comedy clubs. And now all those club owners are like, we always knew he was special. He died. You know what I mean? It's like the people who do make it are the ones who do go outside the system. It's just, well, how do we mentally survive until we get there?
Marcelo gave me this tip, which he always gave weird tips that like kind of like Yoda, where it's like half a tip and then you had to like figure out the rest.
Dude, I've given some of these stories on the show. Yeah, for sure.
So one of these was, he always hated because I was never a person, like unless you were nearby or you asked me to roll, I wouldn't get someone to roll. Right. And then I'd look over and it'd be like me and Benny. Benny, he was like, how big is Benny?
He was like 300 pounds.
Yeah. And like one time we tried it out and it was just me. It was like, you know, those kids classes where you put the kid on your back and that's the whole role. It was just fucking useless. So, you know, after that, we were just like, hey, you know, cause but, so also I would sort of like avoid rejection and I would go to the bathroom during that time. I mean, I had to pee. I probably could have held it, but you know, so he.
And by the way, I had those same issues. That's why I was always so excited to partner with you, because then I'm like, well, at least my first role. And then I don't know if you noticed this, but this is something I say if I have a training partner I like. I go, hey, find me again if you want another one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I locked in Erin for 2. That's cool.
And there's only like 4 roles in like the noon class. It's only an hour long. So anyway. So I go to, you know, whatever, I'm sitting out and he comes over to me, you know, and he's like, Erin, like, you can't be sitting out. If you want to compete, you have to get every role. It doesn't matter.
I think I remember this day.
And I said, you know what, I think I said something like, you know, I didn't get someone in time. And he goes, Erin, when I was training hard, no one liked rolling with me because I trained too hard. But you know what I did? I made them roll with me. He literally said that. He literally was just like, they had no choice.
Yeah.
Like I just make them roll with me.
Yeah.
And dude, he was that guy that like was super competitive, that no one liked to train with because one, they got beat up, but also like he just probably was like not the friend. He was just there to train. You know, he was got like a one-track mind. And so, you know, it just reminds me that even Marcelo didn't get a lot. He was very stern. And, you know, we know that he's really controlling in his own world. And if you're in his world, he's going to control that.
Yeah.
And, you know, no one likes to be around that apparently. So, yeah, he had a tough time too. So
But a lot of people would have seen that and maybe left. Or maybe, you know what I mean? And what makes Marcelo great, one of the things that makes him great is like, he just kept going, you know? And even you saying that to me now, I'm like, yeah, I don't have to think about what people think about me or whatever. I can just go and be a good person and just train and make them roll.
But you also have a brown belt. And so what I noticed is that as you get higher up, so first, you know, you get the rest rolls from people. And then there's 2 things. Like, obviously I can ask anyone to roll being a black belt, you know, like legally. Like sometimes I would that and I would like, no, Joseph, sorry, but Mark's training with me now.
Right.
I could do that if I want to, right? And plus being a girl and being small. And those are 2 different things, by the way. Being a female is one thing. You're going to roll with me a certain way, but also just being small. A big female is going to be a different role, right? So I fucking hate when people are like, oh, you know, all females, you roll one way, all white belts, you roll whatever. So I would use that, but then I also hate asking people, unless you're like my friend and I'm going to do it. By the way, I'm going to do it in a really like non-professional way to be like, hey, let me beat you up now. I literally say that. And I'm like joking, but yeah. So that's why I will never be like a professor.
You got your weird little cock tights on.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to get some of this? Come on.
People won't ask me because in a traditional sense, you know, you never ask the black belt to roll. And I'm like, please just because I'm like, I'll just sit there. I'll literally just wait. And like,
whoever made that rule really didn't account for black belts with confidence issues. That's really fuck you to all of us one day. Yeah. That's so fucking funny. By the way, I didn't know that was a rule until like last year.
I knew you'd say that.
Oh, I march confidently up to black, but they're the first ones I asked to roll. I had no idea where I'm like, you want to do this?
And then there's the passive aggressiveness later that's like, oh God, Jamie, oh no.
Dude, I literally had no fucking clue. I like called them out. And then, like it probably looked like I was trying to take out black belts. Or it's like, oh, the angry brown belt who hasn't been promoted yet wants to fucking make his case. Awesome. Great.
Yeah, no matter what I do, I can never be that guy because I'm also a girl and people never forget that. Unless I'm rolling with them, then they forget. Then they're like,
right.
Shit.
Yeah. That goes for jiu-jitsu in general. I mean, anything that's even injuries, they always say like, you know, go a little light, but then once you're rolling, you're just rolling, right? Like you forget about all of those subtleties because you got to stop being choked.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I hate people when they say that. First of all, I don't know how to flow roll. I just don't. I don't know how to give you things.
Jamie's so mad right now. He loves flow rolling.
I did. She knows she was one of my main fucking partners.
But yeah, but like we never flow rolled ever.
No,
we never did.
No.
Think back. Never.
Yeah.
We just went, you know?
Yeah.
But I love when people are like, hey, my right knee, the medial side. And what I tell people, I go, just remind me in the roll.
Yeah.
Like it's your burden.
If I start to go for it.
Yeah. Like if I go for it, just either say like, hey, this thing. Yeah. Or just, you know, like say like,
the best solution I've ever seen to this was a white belt friend of mine when I was training. I think I was like a purple belt at this time. And he blew his knee in tournament, but kept coming back as much as he could for training. And same thing, like I just don't remember. First of all, I'm semi-dyslexic, so I couldn't tell you which one your left is when I'm inverted anyways.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what he did is at the beginning of every class, he would safety tape with orange neon tape around his knee in three directions so you couldn't miss it.
That is beautiful. Because it's your burden. If you're going to roll with an injury, it is your burden to make sure that you stay safe.
Hey, Erin, I could talk to you like homie. Like this conversation makes me be like, number one, we would have you on the podcast every week. Number two, I should text you every day. Like we should be just better at that. But we both
don't even
like
respond to me half the time.
Yes, I do.
You don't continue the conversation.
It was since the blue check, right?
Although no, because
I don't notice status.
Because pre-blue check, Robert Drysdale, the first thing he said on this podcast was, "Hey Jamie, you gonna text me back?" And I was like, "Mm-hmm." Quarantine hasn't been easy for this guy. We're doing our best. Erin and I's text chain too is she had me checking in on one of our other crazy friends, and then once they were safe, I was like, all right, it's fine. Yeah, so we have to do this because I love you. But so I could keep talking to you. I like that this conversation's been casual, and this sounds like a cheesy pre-planned. We ask everybody this question. It sounds one of those like wrap-up podcasts, you know, when they're like fire round or whatever.
I love it. I love it.
But because of you and everything you've been through and what you do, you're the only person I've asked this. If there were a couple of things you could change about the jiu-jitsu community or how we operate or what we do or how we treat people, women, everybody, mental health, whatever.
Basically, he's giving you the rant card.
Yeah, like
there's too many.
There's too
many. Okay, so number one is going to be very personal, but that's me.
Great.
So, if you're a female in jiu-jitsu and you sleep with someone in jiu-jitsu, okay, you're allowed. Okay, but think about this. This is when I say, men, put yourselves in. Okay, let's preface it this way. So there's a new Instagram account, forget what it's called, but it's basically teaching women what those grooming things are, the things that happen in jiu-jitsu when you feel like you're going to be taken advantage of, you know, when someone grooms you for abuse. That happened to me. But at the same time, I wasn't mad about it because I was single. And so what you get is
Can you say the different? Sorry, I don't want people to get defensive about this. And there's been so much talk about it in like comedy land and stuff like that. what is the difference? Because there is one. When you say grooming, between that and being like, let's say me and you are training partners, I'm like, oh, I kind of have a crush on Erin and would like her one day to be my girlfriend, and like the beginnings of a relationship. Like, what is? Because I don't think a lot of people know about.
Okay. It should never mix. Even if like I'm training with a boyfriend, which I've done a few times.
Yeah.
In my life, it's just jujitsu. You don't sit there like if you were training with your girlfriend, you don't start choking them and go, you didn't wash the dishes last night.
Right.
Like, you don't do that.
Right.
Just you don't mix. You know what I mean? It's like
Allie would have done that shit to me. Let's be honest.
You've had so many girlfriends, I can't keep track.
Thank you so much.
But also, okay.
I'm charming.
So it's consent. So also when it's consent. So someone who's hitting on me in jiu-jitsu, I don't care if you are good looking, if you are this, you're good at jiu-jitsu. I'm going to be so turned off because that's not appropriate. Okay. Leave it for off the mat.
Yeah.
And so then basically like the grooming and whatnot is like when a guy says, oh, I'm a black belt and I want you to come to my academy so I can teach you stuff. Right. So I would go as a white belt and I'd be
so like, whenever someone wants to teach you stuffs, something is afoot.
So like I would go because I'm like, dude, this guy's hot, and I get a special attention. And like, maybe he's just looking at my ass, which is like, whatever. But at the time I was like, cool. Because, when you start out, you're not able to separate them too much. Everything is just awesome. So I would go to these gyms and these guys would hit on me. But to me, it would be like, cool. So I get to be in the advanced class, even though I'm a 2-stripe white belt, and you need to be either a blue belt or like a 3-stripe white belt. And then I would get extra attention when we were going over the drills. And then I would get laid after and probably get dinner for free. So to me, that was a good deal because there was consent.
Right.
Okay. And obviously the consent was me showing up. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of situations, whether you want it to happen or you don't want it to happen, it needs to stay separate. Okay. And also within your own gym, not okay. Yeah. So there's two things. It's, having dudes that are like preying upon females, like, oh, we got a new female. It's like, no, dude, she's already going through everything trying to learn jujitsu. Don't be hitting on her as well. Right. Mm. Like maybe when she gets her blue belt, you can ask her out on a date, but for the most part, and like there's gonna be some females that are like scoping out too, but that's consent, right? So consent is kind of like everything. And it's hard that I have to say that because it's like that's just life, like you should never do anything unless things are safe and kosher and consent. It doesn't matter if you want to be stabbed in the leg, like if someone says yes, do it, like you know what I mean, like no one's at fault. But when it comes to the gender roles, it's like it's hard enough being a female in jiu-jitsu by dealing with big guys and, just like having the techniques not work properly until you have a good instructor that's going to say, actually, you need to add this extra step, which is the same what I do when I teach my techniques because I go, I'm flexible, like really flexible. So for all you non-flexible people, we're going to take that extra hip out.
I can't play your fucking game. Yeah.
Right.
Well, real quick, just back with the consent power dynamic thing, because like I've seen couples who fell in love with jiu-jitsu and it was like a purple belt and a blue belt or something like that. And there are some cool stories that have come out of it. When I was like, was when I came to a gym and a new girl shows up and there's like a posse of guys who sit around and it's like, that is the definition of predatory. That is a National Geographic special.
Yes.
And also I think there is something, man, look, there's some talk of stuff with the Me Too that I disagree with about like if you happen to work together, as long as you're not using your power, again, people fall in love. I know people who have fallen in love where like it was the wardrobe lady and she fell in love with the director or whatever and they didn't communicate. However, if you have like a black belt who's fucking a bunch of white belts, you are using like, in my opinion, your physical power to like, that's fucking really intimidating, especially when you're teaching fighting. And if you are just racking up white belts, like that to me is like straight up predatory.
So it goes along with consent. Now, what I believe is what I hate about most things is like when you act a victim, you're going to be a victim. Okay. And a lot of people don't agree with me on this. Like when you like in the real world, right? I saw this video and it was a black man that comes into a elevator, right? And it's like he's talking to the camera. And so the woman like clutches her purse tight. If you treat that person as if they are predatory, you know what I mean? You're going to expect that. Or if you act like a victim already, right? So it's like you have to have that like don't fuck with me energy. Now, females, it is also their burden, okay? So females who come in and say, oh, that guy was really helping me, but I don't want him to. It's your responsibility to say, I don't need your help. And women need to also be taught that because that's going to help them in life.
Teaching them that's a big deal because I think a lot of women are raised to be people pleasers and man pleasers very specifically, where it's
people belong in jiu-jitsu. People pleasers don't belong in jiu-jitsu because you literally about putting your will onto someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Early on, you need to literally be like, oh, when someone makes a grip, what do? You fucking break it.
No. I agree with you. I'm being the Erin translator. Do you remember the Key and Peele sketch where Obama had like the black translator who would like, it would be the one guy who would just be like, motherfucker, what? And then Obama would like very clearly be like, what he means is, I'm getting your back. But I think what you're saying is we need to teach women that it is okay to fucking stand up for them herself. However, at the same time, you can also recognize, which I know you do because I know you, that as a society, it is very hard. Because when women hear that, and I think it's very important to be like, yeah, you need to defend yourself. But also, caveat, sucks that society makes shit way harder for you. For example, like women, if I stick up for myself, I'm like an alpha. If a woman a lot of times stick up for herself, it's like, oh, she's a bitch, right? Like we just have a lot of stereotypical bullshit to get over, but that doesn't mean that women shouldn't also be more assertive.
There's pros and cons, okay? Because you know how every man says, if I was a chick, I'd like make dudes do shit for me and I just show them my boobs. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I have, yeah.
So, yeah. So that's kind of the way that you have to look at it. There's pros and cons. In one way, you could say as a female, you get more attention and people who legitimately want to help you. Now, I have guy friends to where the point, if I look at them and because like, if I said, want to fuck, I mean, it would change the dynamic entirely, but because I don't, you know what I mean? And people try to use it as an excuse that women can't be friends with men and men can't be friends with women. And I disagree. You just say, okay, we don't touch that way. We don't do certain things, right? Because it's the same with different roles that you have with certain people and the boundaries. Okay. So it's knowing the boundaries of, and it's not necessarily defending because defending implies that there's an attack. It's just setting those boundaries, right? Yeah. So you have to, even if there was a guy that was bigger than you, which, you know, sorry, Jamie, but a lot of men are.
I don't know. Are you talking to Drew?
We didn't know that was a fact.
So
that's why I don't leave the house because I just assume that I'm the biggest one out there. I'm like, people would be so scared if I went outside.
But if you have a dude that just ragdolled you all the time,
right?
You know, at first you'd just be like, well, I'm not going to roll with that guy. But if he was like Marcelo, was like, you roll with me now,
right?
You would have to say something. You'd have to say, look, man, I'm not getting much out of this role, right? So you have to use your voice.
Right.
And you know, also there's you can get into the nuances of like body language, but that doesn't say things to the certain people. Like most people are going to ignore those things or they're not going to read it. You have to use your words. And like people don't think about that because they just think like, especially when you're first starting, you're like, no, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole and all the rules and this and that. But you always have to remember that you, regardless of rank, regardless of titles, everyone has to be a good human being.
Dude.
Now, when all the Lloyd Irvin shit happened years ago, which my boyfriend, who is a boobao, he has no idea any of that. He came in later, right?
Sweet Canadian blue belt.
It was so long ago that most people, you know, nowadays don't even know about it. But I'm not talking about, you know, the rape case. I'm talking about the fact that Lloyd Irvin had this fighter house and that if you were a competitor, you know, you would do everything you could to go there because he was going to teach you how to be a full-time like manager of yourself, how you're going to market yourself, all of those things. And those were great. You know, there was a good side.
That's how we opened this fucking interview where it's like, we need more people doing that.
Yeah. So that was a good thing. However, it made people think that if they won shit, that they were exempt from being a good human being and that they could do whatever they wanted. And so that is the main thing now that is happening. Things like with Gordon Ryan saying whatever the hell he wants. And I get it. There's the trash talk, but that's no longer trash talk. This is jujitsu. And you need to remember that if you are a shit person, people are not going to care what the fuck you do in jujitsu. They're not going to buy your shit. They're not going to go to your seminars because you are a piece of shit person.
Well, there's a difference between trash talk and being like George Floyd should have been murdered, right?
Like, you're black, so you go fuck yourself. Like, right. I've seen him say shit like that, and I'm pointing him out because he's the most well known.
Sure.
And so like gold medals and titles do not negate you from just humility and being a good person. I will always judge someone if they are a good person. And unfortunately, I've had a lot of cases because I was in, the media. I was working for Gracie Mag and whatnot, and I was dealing with my idols, right? And a lot of them are assholes. A lot of them are amazing human beings, and I will always tout that. But some people are literal pieces of shit, and it's very hard to for me personally to like want to support that person. Like sometimes you're like, he's so good, he's so fun to watch. Too bad he like beats his wife. It's so hard for me because a lot of people can separate it. I can't. So
no, I can't.
Ask me what I think about someone, about a fighter. I will always kind of bring in, even if I don't know them personally, but everything I've seen with them, how they deal with people, how well they speak, if they, speak highly of themselves and others. Like those are things that I'm automatically going to pay attention to.
If they don't beat their wife.
Right. And so like John Jones, for example, like it's really hard because you're like, well, at least, I mean, from the majority, he's not hurting people except for that pregnant woman. Right. But like he's pretty much just ruining his own life and maybe his kids, but who knows, right? That I don't, get into the personal stuff. But I mean, every time I've seen him, he's been really, professional when he's on. I
met him once. He was really nice. Yeah. I mean, do you think that, I think one of the things we can do too, because it's easy to hear this conversation and be like, oh, fuck, man. Am I like not supposed to like anyone? What I noticed that really made my heart happy is, so I lost a bunch of followers when I started posting more about Black Lives Matter. And, I made some like Gordon videos and some people got pissed off. But that's also how I became friends with Christina. And that's also how I became friends with there were like a bunch of
it's Christina's birthday today. So.
Oh, I know. I was already on it. I already posted my little story. She's the best. But I wouldn't know her. And there were a bunch of black belts who I didn't know because they're not as loud or they don't compete as much. And they just have a school in fucking California or, the guy who did black belts for Black Lives, like me and him, Instagram. Yeah. I don't even know his fucking name. Germany. Yeah. We Instagram all the time. He's such a funny, sweet, I would consider him like a fucking friend. And there were so many amazing people that I'm like, oh man, I was just so busy watching 300 Gordon Ryan stories in a day that I didn't notice that there are a bunch of other really fucking dope people out there because look, jiu-jitsu's hard, and especially all the blue belts who are listening are just looking for an out. And all they need to do, right? Their gym got a little racist, and they're like, all right, time to fucking be the blue belt who leaves. But there are other people out there. And when you find your fucking tribe and you find a good gym, and look, jiu-jitsu people are filthy. We don't have filters. You're not going to find a gym that is seems like a bunch of Mormons, and you don't want that. But there's a difference between people who joke around, people who have filthy language, and legit white fucking supremacists, or people who don't care about racism, or people who don't give a fuck about women or whatever. And what I would say is, instead of getting so worked up about everyone you're supposed to hate, is go seek out and amplify the really cool people who maybe don't get as much love because they're just training and trying to be decent people.
Yes. I would say that Tim Spriggs, who's one of my best friends ever.
He's the best. We had him on the show.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a black belt who is actually, I mean, you wouldn't know it by how he competes. He's actually like a ferocious human being.
He is, dude. Well, do you remember the year?
Oh,
Do you remember when he took out our entire Marcelo dream team?
yes, we were always scared of him.
To the point where, like, I remember being in like the balconies at either Pans or Worlds and being like, and this is what I was like hardcore. I was competing. I think it was the Worlds. I got like silver. I was still a blue belt. And I was like, our guys are untouchable because we're the Marcelo people. And by the way, we were like massacring people. Every Satava, we had Danis, all those guys.
Every division, yeah.
Yeah. And then I just remember being by myself in the balcony with like my little acai bowl, watching Spriggs manhandle just fuck like collar drag Dylan.
New York Open, we'd be like, oh shit, he got Tim Spriggs. Like,
yeah. And
like,
he
didn't want to say anything, but we're like, oh.
Well, and he was so good that like I would be like, man, that sucked. And then I would go home and go on YouTube and be like, Tim Spriggs.
People would be like, he has no technique. He just like throws people around. And I think at some point,
by the way, that sounds like some racist bullshit because he's technical as fuck. Should be like, yeah, he just like manhandles people. It's like manhandles the best people in the world. He's probably using some tech.
He's got a side business that's going to build your game for you. If you don't know how to be a world champion, he will literally take your videos and be like, this is what you're best at. This is how you're going to win a medal. Go do that.
Right. It's not like
technical.
Step 1, be black. Step 2, lift weights.
Throw people.
Yeah. He's anti-racist, anti-steroids. Like he is legit. Just like
he was the first person we had on the show when Black Lives Matter was happening.
Yeah. And so he's not even like, and he in his own little world, he is an advocate. But he will not go in and be like, I'm this and I'm that, because he's actually an introvert and he's super educated. And like when you talk to him, it's like talking just like to like your best friend. Like, oh my God, like, do you know that anytime something goes wrong in my life, especially when it's like jujitsu, making money, you know, things like that, I call him and we will rant to each other for like over an hour. I have cried to him. Man. Like everything. That man is like he's amazing.
I've never been like, I want a vacation in Baltimore, but I'm like, I want to train with him. Dude, I literally want to talk. I want to train with him. I want to talk pro wrestling, like, and
the
like
best thing about it is he has a basement, and he lives with his grandma and his great grandma. And
I love him so much.
Literally,
his
hurts. Grandma will be like, dinner's ready. And then Tim and I will go upstairs and sit at the table and have a full-on dinner. His grandma is a wonderful cook.
I love this.
Like they are, like he has that family, atmosphere. But at the same time, if you want to just walk through the door or walk through the garage and just go straight to the basement where he has everything, it's like cool. And I just sleep on his couch down there.
Yeah.
And I could stay there. I'll stay there like for a week at a time. Literally, if I wanted to just escape right now, I could just go to Baltimore and just stay in his basement.
But this is what I'm saying. By the way, can you make that happen with me? I'm gonna get my black belt from Tim Springs. I'm just kidding. But like,
I said, like because I applied to Virginia, Northern Virginia, like right outside of DC, to 2 of the fire departments there, because I have friends there, and like I consider Tim one of my biggest support systems. Obviously, I also have this guy Eric Force who owns High Noon Jiu-Jitsu, and his wife is in the Alexandria Fire Department, and so she's kind of like an idol of mine right now. And when I considered, when those were open, I was like, hell yes. And then of course Nick, my boyfriend's like, well, you can open a school with Tim then, and then I can get my black belt under Tim. I was like, that sounds amazing. So come on down.
Yeah.
I haven't told him yet.
You can get we can get a wrestling ring in there, a little podcast studio. Yes. Dude, well, I'm getting my black belt from you, not Tim. I'm not selling you out for the Patreon.
Whatever. It could be together. We'll both sign the paper.
That would be amazing. Hold hands while we sign it. But I think, and we'll let you go because we got to wrap this up and I got to pee. But like what you just said was such a beautiful thing because our brains always go towards the negative, right? And I remember one of our guests, who I will not mention, was like, yeah, man, I just like unfollowed Gordon Ryan and suddenly there's like not a lot of drama in the jiu-jitsu community.
Oh, that was me.
No, but that was also someone else who raps and is white and is
Halleck Gracie.
Lethal. Yeah, but like, and I did the same thing. I just like unfollowed him and I'm like, oh, It's fine. And like, but it's so easy to get caught in gossip where you feel like, well, we're gossiping the bad guy. So, I mean, even some listeners on the show, every time Gordon does something, they like DM me and I'm like, I don't need to know this. Like, I mean, it's not good. I've made my case. I've like said what I said. All done. I'm done now. And like, I would much rather do is hear about like, oh shit, Tim Spriggs puts his homie up and like you eat with his grandma and then he's like one of the most like badass competitors. Like there are so many stories like that out there that don't get talked about on fucking podcasts because it doesn't get clicks. And like in every fucking city, there is a jiu-jitsu school run by someone who would take in a fucking stranger if they needed it. And like, I would so much rather amplify those stories than just, you know, think, because if you go on into, you're like, is just jiu-jitsu garbage? It's like, no, jiu-jitsu is still really beautiful. And there are trash people in everything, you know?
What I will say is that if Gordon Ryan is competing, I watch, okay? I look at his technique. I look at his skill and I am impressed. And I love watching him compete.
He is very good at jiu-jitsu.
And
what a crown.
Just because I do not like him as a person does not mean that I don't watch his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, of course.
And so like what I said about like, you know, oh, I don't support this guy. No, I don't. I don't necessarily support him in terms of like what he says, what he does, how he makes his money. Am I jealous of how much money he makes off of jiu-jitsu? Yes, I cry myself to sleep at night because I've spent the last 4 years trying to build myself up in that way, whether it's being like a coach, whether it's being a seminar teacher, whether it's being an online coach, whether it's just being a personality. I mean, it does not work.
Can I give you some friend advice, which if you can tell me to fuck off and I won't do it on the podcast and I'll call you afterwards. But like the people who are doing it right. So in comedy, right? Comedy is a great example. There have been some comics that have just been like super edgy, offensive, and just like fucking mean and cruel and shitty, and they know how to network and whatever, and they make it. And when I see those people, they're fucking miserable, you know? And look, I wish the best for Gordon. I wish the best for you. I don't want anyone to have a shitty life.
True.
But they're miserable, and they're just like fucking drinking themselves to death, whatever. The people who make the lasting impacts, like, you're going to change more people's lives than some rich kid. And like, that's what fucking matters in the long run. You know, I just watched this Kobe Bryant interview this morning where they asked him, you know, define greatness. And he goes, greatness is inspiring the person next to you. It's not about being the best skill-wise. It's about if you inspire this girl, if you inspire this crazy person, and then we inspire someone, and then they inspire someone. That is literally how your legacy lives on. And it's not just about medals, and it's not just about money. The most miserable motherfuckers in the world are billionaires because they'll never be happy, and they keep grabbing, and they keep grabbing. When you were talking about even sleeping on couches, when you were just casually like, yeah, and then I shot over to Wales, and I had a couple. You know how many people who were listening to that who would murder for that? And like, how much cooler is that than like, oh, I got 200,000 followers by making fun of homeless people? I mean, again, he's a great competitor, but like, you can't. And then if we're just talking competition, we'll make it not as personal. But there is a great quote talking about how like, there's a reason that like racehorses can't look over at each other, you know, because they'll fucking veer off. Like you can't. He has a different life. You can't do that. What you can do is every day I'm going to be a little more successful. Every day I'm going to be a better person. Every day I'm going to be more innovative, whatever. And then, dude, when I stop comparing myself, you know who I was neck and neck with, same manager, the most competitive with? I was trying to be his friend, but he was very competitive because I started to get some stuff before him. But we had the same two advocates. Yeah, Kumail, the most famous, loved person in the world, right? And if I was like, I want to be in a fucking movie with Batista, or like I want to, like, I'd be miserable. Kumail is so rich, so successful. Every hero of mine follows that motherfucker on Instagram. Kumail doesn't like me. We're just different people. and I'm going to do different things. But if I compared myself to him, that would stop me. If I'm looking over, I veer off. And then that stops you from doing what you do. Or you spend so much time being like, oh, fuck, do I need to do this? Do I need to be racist? That like you don't get to do the thing you're great at. Whereas if you can just stare straight ahead, aiming for your tiny horse hut, and like, that's right, I got a comedy callback in the middle of this fucking sappy ass speech. You're going to figure out who you are, and you're going to make it, and you're going to inspire your tribe. That's a different fucking tribe, man. You don't want, we forget because we think jujitsu is jujitsu. If Gary Tonin repost a video I did compared to like if Keenan reposts it, compared to if you repost it, I get different universes of people following me. But we're all still jujitsu, but we forget because it seems so small. So like, dude, I mean, what you do doesn't exist. You know, it doesn't exist. And like that is the sign of success. It's just you have to just keep doing it confidently. But if
I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to say, because Jamie isn't going to, is everybody listening, he does life coaching as well. Get a hold of him in the DMs. Continue.
No, I'm actually trying not to do it as much because I got to focus on my shit.
You're so fucking good at it. Keep going.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's why I'm just like, keep going.
but that's it. You know, like it's just about like owning your shit.
Owning is weird.
Just own it. It's exactly the advice you gave. It's like doing that because, like I don't have as many followers. Like you don't either, but like our followers are like our fucking people. And, you know, there's, you know, on a business level, you should read this article called 1,000 True Fans. Have you ever read that?
Me?
What's that? I will. I'll find it. But it's essentially, it's our model for this podcast too, where there are people with hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. Actually, Jocko's company, our sponsor, Origin, you know, they tried a bunch of different people with, you know, hot chicks with millions of followers and this and whatever. We have way less followers, but our people are like our people. Yeah. And this article essentially says that if you just have 1,000 true fans, people who every time you put something out, every time you come to their town, it's like, here is how it's Amanda Palmer's approach. Here's how you can make like $100,000 a year, which by the way, there's also a book called The Happiness Hypothesis, which is like after $80,000 a year, when you can pay your bills, when you can take a vacation, when you can, I think Rogan says like pay for a meal without worrying about what you ordered, you're good.
Starbucks
like
is mine.
Starbucks. Yeah. There you go.
Pay for Starbucks and not fret about it.
And not stress. But like, that's it. When you just start going for, well, I need more and then I'll be happy. I'll need more and then I'll be happy. It's like, you're never going to be happy.
Right.
So,
right.
That's my spiel.
That's just true.
You're the best.
I feel like Erin made the best use of the rant card, and then Jamie made the best use of the reversal Uno card at the end.
Yeah. Look, I'm just trying to inspire her to the point where she's like, someone needs to give him his black belt. I'm gonna give him.
As I was saying my rant, he's just like loading up the bullets.
Like, carry on.
Well, listen, I'm going to text you after this so we can figure out how we can like actually stay on it and talk more. Promote your shit.
Okay. First of all, I want to talk about the racism free.
Oh, this is a terrible time to tell you. We are a racist show.
Oh, we're sponsored by racism. Sorry.
Awkward. This is very, yeah.
You guys don't know why Sakisada? You guys should have him on. We used to hate him at Marcelo's because he came off as like cocky and stuff. And
okay.
Opened his own gym, Sucker Free Jiu-Jitsu, and then I rolled with him at JT Torres, who he's a black belt under, and he destroyed me. And I was like, wow, there is some merit. And now everything he says and does is very controversial, but it's hilarious. And
me and him used to have wars at Marcelo's. And I saw him like
who is he? He thinks he's cool.
I just thought he fucking hated me. And then I saw him on Instagram and he like liked something I posted, but he didn't follow me. And I'm like, oh, he still fucking hates me. But then I see the stuff he's putting out and I'm like, we would be friends. Why am I being stupid?
Literally has a gym called Sucker Free Jiu-Jitsu. And him and his students, just like me, walk around and it says racism free jiu-jitsu on the back.
Oh my God.
And it's just like, yeah, it's just like a no, he's very direct. Like, yeah, just don't be an asshole.
Tell him to be my friend, Erin.
Okay, I will.
Tell Tim I'm staying on his couch.
Yes.
Tell Wes to be my friend and give me my black belt.
White, but yes.
It's Wes and Erin Herle, correct?
I hate you so much. Hyperfly is my sponsor. I'm gonna have an affiliate link soon. It's taken
cool.
so long, so now I can make money off of you.
Fuck
and,
yes.
I'm gonna put that on my Instagram. Go to my website because I am freelance all the way. And I am a writer, a public speaker, and I teach. And I do all of those 3 things really well. And I have testimonials and everything. So go to my website. I know, so like antiquated who goes to a website, but go to it, read it. I put a lot of work into it like 2 years ago, and I just haven't been promoting it. So
Erin, I have
wait a sec, what is the URL?
ErinHerle.com.
I have an idea. I'm going to pitch you to.
Okay.
I'll call you after this.
I live with my mother.
A racism sponsorship. Continue.
Like, I love my mother, but I've been living with her for the past 4 years, and I can't afford anything in LA to move out. And I want all my money to go to Starbucks versus rent. So it's just the whole thing. So
and this is another thing, by the way, which is like, I would tell you off, if I was coaching you, I would tell you off the air. I'd be like, hey, don't tell people that. Like, you're a fucking pro badass jiu-jitsu person, whatever. Like, I hate when comics on stage like do a bit about their day job. I'm like, the audience just stopped seeing you as a comedian. Right. However, I'm going to use this opportunity to say all that shit Erin talked about, teaching internationally, fucking starting her own company, getting her black belt from Cobrinha, one of the most famous jiu-jitsu guys in the world.
Karen.
But yeah, it's because of a good Karen. Like, the fact that fucking you are not making a living means our industry is broken and everybody should be outraged.
I'm doing everything right. I can write how to do it, and other people would get success off of it.
No, don't think like that. But like, it's this is why I hate all the divisiveness, where it's like, if we all just fucking came together, and Drew and I talked about this from episode 1, where it's like, how can we all make a living doing this thing we love? You know? And it shouldn't be this.
Let's all pair together.
Yes.
Can't wait till I can go to Canada. I almost got married this month before my boyfriend left.
Oh yeah, I'm waiting for that to happen, by the way.
Go there. Because the only way that I can go there is if I'm married to him. But yeah.
Well, the good news is Tim Hortons is like $4 less per coffee than Starbucks. So
I love Tim Hortons. I'm a double girl.
Oh, you guys.
So if you could just send me some of the beans or the ground coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, I almost fell for a Canadian girl too, and just all of us were just slowly gonna move up to fucking Canada. All right, we gotta go. I gotta pee. You gotta go. I'm gonna text you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
All right.
I love you too.
And then Drew, I'll text you, and then we'll finish this up.
Sounds good, man. It was good talking to you, Erin. Nice to learn the actual pronunciation of your last name. You're awesome.
Surely. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Erin. She was so good.
That was really good. We learned so much, including her last name.
We did. I sat down to pee, to treat myself, because I had to pee so bad. It was like
really is a treat, right?
Peeing. Yeah, it really is. I'll do it in the middle of the night too. And then and I was texting Erin whilst doing that, gossiping about black belts and projects, and yeah, she's the fucking best, dude. She's so good.
There's so much that she was saying, especially near the end there, while you were giving her just amazing life advice about making money in jiu-jitsu, that, I mean, both of us are in that space. Me primarily. You've at least got some comedy shit going on. Like, my stuff is all jiu-jitsu based, right? So, I mean, I really vibe with those issues and struggles, and really like the backbone, I think, of the problem for a lot of people that are trying to make money in jiu-jitsu is that the traditional route to becoming a world champion and doing the seminar tour thing is just, it's not really accessible for most people.
No.
Just on the skill base, right? Like,
well, and how to survive,
many people can do that?
Yeah, well, and even like if they do have the skill, how to have the money and how to be able to survive, you know, not every gym has like a fucking fight house, like to
Exactly.
get the amount of training you need to get to that level. I mean, it should be to the point where if you're a high level black belt, if you're a high level brown belt, like you can fucking make a living. It's like
Look, man,
not
this
sponsors taking advantage of people,
no,
not
no.
having to pay to compete, you know. And
This
look,
is something everybody's learning now, is that the traditional methods don't work. Like
no.
they're certainly not reliable. Like you're not going to make a living off of you know, free tournament entries and T-shirts.
Right.
And I mean, how
I
many?
would like to pay my rent in IBJJF t-shirts, please.
Yeah, right. And it's a never-ending
Do you
problem that only
accept
gets worse.
Naga swords?
But like this is something that not only do I have to deal with, but I'm actually really excited to do, is to take the untraditional path of making money in jiu-jitsu. And this is something that I had to have somebody. Sure. Yeah, exactly. That's non-traditional, and we're doing great. It's only getting better.
It's the memes, the comedy videos, the like, you know, and look, it's not just jiu-jitsu. It sounds like we're shitting on jiu-jitsu, which we are. I'm shitting on the establishment, not the
establishment. That's
the
right.
establishment. And and I'll shit on the establishment of comedy, and like, you know, look, it's always the people with power that want to keep a lot of the other people down and keep the money for themselves.
Yeah, they lock people out from self-interest, right? They got the money, they don't want to give it away.
Yes. And what I will say though is that we're seeing with COVID in every industry, people are like, oh, this was not sustainable. Like with jiu-jitsu, it's like comical, but the people who are thriving right now are the people who are innovating.
And this comes back to us being weirdos, right? Like being like cookie cutter doesn't help you at this point, because that formula has been played out to the point of death. And so now it comes down to having weird ideas and really diving in on them. So all of that to say, I saw a post by one of the owners of Origin, Pete Roberts. And this post, it really blew my mind, because I've only ever known him as the owner of Origin. Yeah. And he put up a post that's like a throwback kind of thing.
Oh my God, I saw this.
And it shows him as a brown belt competing in the, let me see here, the Abu Dhabi World Pro. So this is a very, very big tournament. He competed as a brown belt. And
you guys are about to, hold on, everybody, let's just take a break. Let's take a breath before you register this. So he is standing there as a brown belt in the bullpen with
this is who's in his bracket he's about to fight. He's got Rodolfo Vieira. He's got Roberto Satoshi. He's got Andre Galvao, Sean Ribeiro, and Bernardo Faria standing
Bernardo, who I believe is wearing the same Target hoodie that I used to have in a much smaller version. In that.
And he is the only brown belt, and literally the only one that everybody in jiu-jitsu wouldn't be able to put a name to just by looking at.
His fucking face in that picture is
it's
he's like standing like kind of at the end too.
Yeah, and he talks about, he's like, you can see in this picture I knew I was dead. Like this wasn't where I belong kind of thing.
Still looks fucking terrifying.
Look, he obviously doesn't suck at jiu-jitsu to get there. He's got the skill, but he's the perfect example of, you know, you can go as far as your skills can possibly take you, and it just won't be far enough when your guys are Andre Galvao, Bernardo Faria, Rodolfo Vieira. These are the guys that you're supposed to be competing against.
But what does he do?
This is just it.
He teams up with fucking Jocko. He like does something he fucking loves, he believes in. You know, fucking Brian from Origin. Like it looks like they're training in like a fucking barn like I am.
Oh, they've got their own like chalet that they've built for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, there's like the immersion camp. There's like jiu-jitsu is still so a part of his life while he's not working a shitty 9-to-5 he hates.
Yeah, plus he's making probably better money than most of those people who are world champions, because he went a different route that A, was not fleshed out. He took a lot of risks doing it, but B, wasn't totally overwhelmed with people already trying to do the same thing, you know? He's the only manufacturer in all of North America that makes their own gis domestically.
You know how I know he's making more money? Because he's not paying us in free soap.
True.
He's paying us in money.
Dollar bills.
Dollar bills, y'all. But it's true, man. It's like the thing that makes you weird. This is the most important thing I'll say on the show. The thing that makes you weird is actually what can be making you money.
For sure.
That you're like, okay, for example, my new Instagram doing well with comedy videos and this podcast. Remember when I was telling Erin that like I've showed up to some gyms and like tried to make jokes and they don't get me? The thing that made me an outcast is now the thing that's making me my living.
Income.
What can you bring to jiu-jitsu that's maybe different? Are you a fucking chiropractor? Well, can you start going into the gym for maybe free and like fucking with some people and then being like, hey, tell people about my you know what I mean? Like, what can you bring to the fucking table?
So there's your inspirational quote that you get to make a meme out of afterwards. It's your weirdness. Wait, how did you say it?
I don't know. Rewind.
Yes,
we'll be back, guys.
I had it.
Your
I had it in
weirdness
my
is
head.
what's gonna make you money.
Weirdness. Your weirdness is what makes your income, or something like that.
The only quote I wrote down was "Own your weirdness, get invited to the orgy."
Okay, maybe that's the pull quote then.
I think that's it. With that said,
if
you want to support us and our sponsor, and the only way this show exists, you can go to originmain.com. Not only did they do that, I today drank my Origin drink because somebody was off having sex and forgot he had 2 podcasts to do, and
that's what they made that drink for.
And I woke up to a text from Drew like, "You want to hop on now?" And I was like, "What the fuck is this? What's happening?" I was like literally in the middle of a nap. And I'm trying to cut back on coffee, and I already had my 2 cups of coffee. And I was like, well, I'm fucked. But then I saw this. And
what'd you say? Did you say good?
Good. The guys, all of those like rants I went on were like Drew and Erin were like, man, we just like sat back and watched you rant. I have no idea what I said. Drew just asked me what I said.
Brought to you by Jocko.
By Jocko's Go, right?
Discipline Go, yeah.
There's not fucking sugar in it. I don't feel fucking sick, but I literally went on tirades and blacked out and cannot tell you what I said. I have no fucking idea what I said.
If you two want this superpower.
If you guys want to make your friends, Erin literally like put her like chin on her hands because I guess what I was saying was good. Guys, I don't know what I said. But what I do know is I drank, what flavor was this? I don't even know.
Caffeine flavor.
Jocko Discipline Go. Physical, cognitive force multiplier.
Holy shit, that's so impressive.
Oh my God, it's called Pre-Mission. He's everything he does is so bad.
Mission accomplished, Jamie.
So guys, if you want that, if you want the only American made gis, if you want to support American jobs, if you want incredibly high quality everything from boots to, you name it, you can go to originmain.com, use promo code RearNaked because you'll get a 10% discount. And you're supporting us by doing that. So that really helps as well.
And before we get off the topic and sign off here, I want to remind people that you can go to reversekimura.com to support my own jiu-jitsu endeavors online. There's going to be a lot more content coming up in the next couple months with different series that we're going to be creating. So it's not just going to be Reverse Kimura from now on, but that's kind of our flagship series. So check it out. There's even some ways to get discounts. Drop me a DM and I'll hook you up because you're part of the fam.
Fuck yeah, the Pathogen fam. I got another email from a girl who was like, when's that Pathogen merch coming? She's like, I want a sleeveless sweatshirt crop top, but I have a feeling most of your audience will not. And I was like, oh, I'm like, I'd wear that. That sounds fucking awesome. So soon, guys, soon. If you want to support me, you can follow me on Instagram at the Jamie Kilstein. I've been doing a new video a day, Monday through Friday. I just thought, fuck it. The Tom DeBlas one's doing really well.
That was amazing. I shared that one too.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah, Tom shared it. Tom, this is probably off the record, but whatever, wrote me and was like, man, I don't even remember saying some of that stuff. And I'm like, Tom, they were all made up. Did you think you said you were going to wear a necklace of ACLs? You fucking maniac. But he was great. And I told him beforehand. So the quote at the end, the Killing Kittens one that was real, is because I got so nervous to make the video. I made like 5 Gordon Ryan videos, didn't give a shit. I made a video about Helio Gracie being like, talking about like all of his fucking wives and being crazy. Huron and Henner both follow me on Instagram, didn't give a shit. I'm like, if Tom doesn't get this as a joke, he's going to murder me.
He will actually kill you.
So I literally had to like write him and I sent him a voice memo and I'm like, hey man, I have an idea for a joke and it's really stupid, but like, I don't know, I thought maybe you'd like it. And then he was like, oh, it's fucking great. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I made it. And I made it. Once I got permission, I made it so much more insane.
Oh, it's game on. It was so good.
It was so game on. My favorite is the end. This is like the Jamie, because it's easy. Once you have that bit, okay, I'm just going to write a bunch of scary things. But I think the Jamie touch comes in when it's like, quote number 9, are you a pedophile? And I was like, am I a pedophile? Like, and then they'll like lock the door kind of shit. That's where I was like, mwah, mwah, mwah. So yeah, so that shit's on my Instagram. And then my podcast, which I'm really proud of. We did the Navy SEAL gun episode with one of Tim Kennedy's
super cool
boys. And we went really deep into firearms, self-defense, situational awareness. He was a little more approachable than Tim, so I got to ask a little of my nerdier questions. And we went long too. So that is a fuck up's guide to self-help is the podcast. A fuck up's guide. And actually, I believe this week, and she's going to come on our show, but she just really inspires me as a human, even though she's like a badass jiu-jitsu. Kendall Roosing is going to come on next week, and she's going to be my co-host on the regular podcast because she talks so much about self-improvement and shit like that, and it's my way. I'm like, I haven't had a jiu-jitsu person since this podcast on my podcast, and I want to get some of my little misfits doing jiu-jitsu. So I thought should be really good. So check out that podcast if you want to add another one. And then Drew and I next week, the most important thing you guys can do, rate and review the show, 5 stars on iTunes, and tell your training partners about it. Any of the interviews that spoke to you, send it out, tweet it, tag us on Instagram.
Yeah, you know what's cool is I'm still getting people like tagging in stories for really old episodes.
Old ass episodes.
Yeah.
Me too. And I think that's really great. If you have guest suggestions, let us know. Questions, obviously, we loved answering your questions last week. And I think that's it, man.
Yeah, that's the show. Awesome.
4:00.
We did it.
We did it. We done. I'm supposed to do jiu-jitsu tonight.
Ooh, I thought you were done doing jiu-jitsu in 2020. What's going on, James?
I can't.
Hey, you're going back to Marcelo, aren't you? You'll be back.
Dude, I'm gonna be back. I mean, dude, I don't get COVID.
Wait. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, one of the fighters who I was with in Vegas.
Oh, I thought you meant like you don't mentally get it. Like, I don't get it, man.
No, I got coughed on. I hugged them, and then the next day they tested positive for COVID.
Are you
I didn't get it?
Immune to COVID the same way that Jake Shields is immune to STDs? How's that for a callback?
As in, not at all.
I'm worried for you.
It is definitely going to get STDs when I get COVID. No. I'm just like, I just don't understand. And it's just not worth my mental health. I'm not going to train at any fucking places that are being dumb. I have a black belt I train with one-on-one. I mean, look, if he gets it, it's as much chance as if I hook up with a girl. It's as much chance as if I go to fucking the store. Like, I just don't know anymore. So I'm being very selective. I'm only training with I'm training just jiu-jitsu with him. And then I got my little barn crew.
Just judge who you're going to roll with by body odor. Cause you can tell who's the cleanly one.
Right. Though I mean, I did that before. Dude, I've said this on the show. Anytime someone had duct tape on them and they're like, hey man, I'm like, what's under there? They're like, oh, it's probably fine. And I'm like, get the fuck out.
Nobody wears duct tape on their skin if it's fine.
Ever fucking roll with me. He's like, no, anytime I hear it's almost gone, I'm like, I'm gonna Tom to blast your fucking face right now. All right, we gotta go. I love you guys so much. See you next week.
See ya.
Peace.